And we're live, and welcome to another Tom and Shane podcast. Happy to have you along with us. We're going to have an interesting topic today, Shane. But before we get started, I want to remind everybody, hey, don't forget to subscribe, ring the notification bell, like us, leave a comment, and all of that. And we're brought to you by StreamYard, and it's easy to use. So why don't you check it out? There's a free link in the description below, and also if you'd like to support the show monetarily. There is a link to Patreon in the description below, and you can read about all the great stuff that we will do for you if you support the show monetarily. All right, Shane.
Yes, sir.
Our topic today: do we really have freedom of speech? And as I said in our little thing, you and I are censored on Saturday. We can't say 8 words that the FCC says I can't say, you can't say. And I'm wondering, why can't I say those 8 words, Shane? I mean, if people are offended, if I use those 8 words, they can change the station. They don't have to listen to it.
Yeah, it's like choosing channels. NBC for their Olympic ratings, 48% down. The terrible result of people not wanting to watch it. And why? Because of what was going on. I don't have to get into it, but the point is they didn't turn the channel on. Yeah. So yeah, everybody has a free choice.
That's true.
The free speech. And it's freedom's in there.
Yeah.
And except unless of course you're under martial law, which of course I find myself in.
I was going to say, you're under martial law up there. They took a vote in the Parliament regarding the Emergencies Act in Canada, and Shane has to be careful what he says today because he is under martial law. And any wrong vernacular of his, the Mounties could be banging on the door any moment now. So
that's right. The Emergency Act was put to the floor of the House of Commons in Canada last night to give a 30-day full period of this act. And our Parliament voted 185 to 151 in favor of it. Trudeau, who has a minority government and therefore needed the support of another party, got the New Democratic Party, which is a socialist party in Canada, to vote with him. Yeah. That's 185 members. And then the Parti Québécois, which supports Quebec and its separation from Canada, oddly, they're in the federal government, but they want separation. Yeah. They voted with the Conservative Party, 151. So it was 185 to 151. I'm astounded. I mean, we talked for years. Canadians never have shown any outrage. Then last summer, they did with regards to COVID and masking and forced mandating on taking therapeutic drugs. And then this happened this year, and it's a totally peaceful protest. I mean, we watched your country for a year burn down.
Yeah.
I mean, every major city in your country, from LA to Chicago to New York, Boston, Baltimore. I mean, Detroit, and nothing. I mean, hardly any outrage about it, and nothing was done to anyone. But up here, people have a peaceful protest. Excuse me, Thomas. Yeah. They seize their trucks, they seize their bank accounts, and now the head of the Ottawa Police is asking the government to give him permission to sell the trucks that they seized to pay for the cost of having to deal with this issue, which they were paid for to do anyway.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I saw in the news there was one lady, I guess, gave $50 to the truckers or something for fuel or whatever, and they literally shut her business down, took her bank account, and she's just flat out of luck. And that's what I say, that's why I want to do this topic today, because in this country, social media are companies. They have the right to do whatever they want to do. I mean, they can, they're not forced to give anybody a platform. But Twitter And Facebook decided no Donald Trump. I think Facebook no BLM, no certain LGBTQ whatever are restricted. And I'm just wondering why. Who sits in some cubicle somewhere and makes these decisions for us? That this speech is okay for you to hear, but you can't hear that. And shouldn't I be the judge of what I want to hear or don't want to hear? I mean, I don't understand why. Um, in our First Amendment, it's pretty clearly spelled out. No law respecting religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging of freedom of speech or of the press.
Yeah, it's quite remarkable. Countries like your own are watching what Trudeau's doing here in Canada under this Emergency Act,
Mhm.
and he being a minority government, his government could fall at any time.
Yeah.
But he seems to have the full support of the National Democratic Party. Having said
Mhm.
that, the reality here is that COVID's over. So that exercise of control by governments is now ended.
Mhm.
Now what do you do? Global warming didn't work. COVID did. Maybe this will work. Now, if these independent truckers come to the East Coast and they jam up the I-90 corridor, which is Washington to Boston to New York, they could shut down the entire Northeast, and they're not going into Washington. They're just going to drive up and down I-90 and basically stop all commerce from moving or people moving on it. It's people mostly,
Mhm.
right? Because a
Yeah.
lot of people work in or live in New York and Boston, Connecticut, Rhode Island, stuff, and
Mhm.
literally drive to work in Washington D.C. So
Yeah, that's true.
this is tough. It's tough,
Yeah,
man.
Virginia, all across the coast there. Yeah, there are a lot of folks that live in Virginia and just traipse into Washington with no problem.
But
So
if
there they go.
I-90 is blocked,
Yeah. Then what are you going to do? You take what dirt roads, I guess, go
yes,
around.
exactly.
Yeah. Well, I'm wondering if we're looking at this. The censorship isn't new. This Canadian thing is new and sort of brings free speech to the forefront. That I realize Canada doesn't have the 10 amendments that we have
No,
in
we
our
have no Bill of
Constitution.
Rights. That's
Yeah,
right.
you don't have a Bill of Rights. But it seems like the First Amendment sure is taking a beating lately. Um,
Well, the whole issue about this. A perfect example was watching a program last night, Rittenhouse, the young man that was
yeah.
accused
Hmm.
of murder and then found innocent. And he was interviewed and asked about people that he's going to sue because of what they had to say about him. And he literally came out and said, "Well, we're going after Whoopi Goldberg
Yeah.
because after I was found innocent by a jury of my peers, she still called me a murderer several
Yeah.
times,
Hmm.
and said
Yeah.
it was a terrible decision by my peers." He said, "So yeah, individuals.
Mhm.
There's several individuals that did this that we're looking at going after, as well as companies." And he
Yeah.
said, "Yeah, we're rearing up and going now."
Yeah.
He's not a public figure, so he the burden of convince a jury isn't as hard for him. Number one, but he's got the fact that he was found innocent behind him,
Yeah.
and on top of that, the government never appealed that decision, so it's settled, it's law,
Hmm.
it's in
Hmm.
place.
Yeah.
On top of all that, what was said to him by so many people, especially in the black community, false accusations that were again disproven during the trial. So now, not only does he get to go into court with this, he's got the evidence from the trial, and all this was brought out and uh, found to be lies. So if you're a public figure, like Sarah Palin, she lost her case because
Hmm.
while the judge reprimanded the New York Times for what they said, he also threw the case out before the jury had even decided.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he did that intentionally to give them a reason to appeal it, but they apparently are going to appeal it. We'll see how far it goes.
Yeah.
But it's very hard for a person in the public venue to sue people for being liable. You have to show that they had a specific and direct purpose for insulting you or lying about you.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that Rittenhouse has, he has the Nicholas Sandman history,
That's right.
where Nicholas Sandman cashed in big from all these places that were trashing him, and he didn't even kill anyone. I mean, so
And that's right. And you know, the interesting thing about this whole case would be that I wouldn't be surprised that Sandman and him have been in contact. I'm sure they have been, but more importantly, they're lawyers to
yeah.
share, you know, the Sandman settlements in court,
Mm-hmm.
you know, without it being made public, to show that you know that they're people that he went after did settle. I don't think anyone will challenge Rittenhouse. It'll be, you know, how much do they settle for? Right?
Yeah.
You'd be crazy.
How
You'd be
much do you
crazy
want?
to do that. I
Yeah.
mean, CNN is wiped out already, and all these other networks. Why would they want to make it worse by having this trial?
Mm-hmm.
It just no. It would just destroy them.
Well, yeah, no, it would, and well, I know the attorney for Sandman and Rittenhouse had a falling out, so I think the Sandman attorney's gone from
Well, that was the one
Rittenhouse.
Rittenhouse fired, though. You know
Yeah,
that.
that's what I
Yeah,
mean.
that.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
they had a falling out. So,
But I think
but
Rittenhouse's new lawyers are definitely talking to Sandman's. You know.
oh, I'm sure they are. Yeah. Well, they're going to go in with that history, that
That's
precedent has
right.
already been set.
Exactly. Yes.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, yeah. If you're innocent or found innocent, whether you are or not, you know, if you're found innocent, you're innocent in the eyes of the law,
That's
whether you
right.
did it or you didn't. Now, you know, two people are dead. They shouldn't be, but they are. And you know, he was
But
found.
can you imagine you're seeing it and you go to trial against Rittenhouse, and then during the trial, you know, the Rittenhouse's lawyers, you know, hand all the members of the jury the settlement that Sandman had with CNN.
Well, they
Right,
can't do that.
right.
They can't do that.
Well, no, they could enter it as evidence
No, they
and show
can't.
it to them.
No, they can't. Judge wouldn't let that in.
Maybe not.
Yeah, I
I'm
know.
just saying maybe not.
No,
Yeah.
no, the defense would not. No way the defense would allow that in. That'd prejudice the jury. So,
Yeah.
not a chance.
All right.
Yeah, that
Bad
won't
call
happen.
on my part.
Well, I don't think if I was a defense attorney, I wouldn't. No, that ain't coming in, Judge. That has nothing to do with this case. What somebody else settled with has nothing to do with this at all. So, no, they're not going to. They might try to get it in, but they'll be admonished and, you know, maybe found in contempt or whatever. But
Well, they could call Sandman as a witness, right?
well, they could maybe, I don't know, but they may instruct them that he can't talk about any settlements. But
I'm sure that's true too. Yeah,
but he wasn't
non-disclosure agreement.
Yeah, but I don't see how they could call him as a witness. He has nothing to do with this trial, so I don't know what they would.
Well, they're not going to go to trial. They'll all settle. So.
Well, probably not. So
You don't
but
think
anyway,
so?
yeah, it gets back to the question: who decides who can and cannot be heard? You know, and court's an interesting variation there. We just talked about, Shane, that certain things can be heard by the jury, certain things can't be heard by the jury. You know, it's but you know, when it comes to social media, some guy in a cubicle somewhere sits down and says, "Nope, you're not putting that up," and "Nope, I don't want this guy up," and that gal, "Nope, well, you can't listen to her," and you know, but
yeah, with a degree in social justice.
yeah. So apparently the Ayatollahs and all these other people, all these terrorist guys are fine. We can put them up, you know, but heaven forbid we put up a, you know, whatever. So I don't know. So, well, does the news have any obligation to report accurately anymore, Shane? Do they even have a, you know, is journalism just gone completely and now it's nothing but opinions?
Well, it you know, that's the difference between what, you know, Fox represents and the other networks. You know, they all say, well, we're all journalists and they're just, you know, TV hosts.
Yeah.
Well, that's true to some degree, but there are some specific shows on Fox that are just news. But
all day till about 6 o'clock or five
yeah,
o'clock.
and
Yeah.
then and then it's
Mhm.
a review of all the day's
Yeah.
news with an opinion.
Hmm.
So is journalism dead? Yeah, if they don't tell the story, or if they make stories up, or they don't recognize they made a mistake and told something that wasn't true. I mean, that's the big one.
Yeah.
Admitting to being wrong isn't a bad thing to do. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that would enhance their ratings immensely for
Yeah.
all
I do too.
ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN. For someone to
Hmm.
come on, put someone new on, and the first thing they do the first night is, "Look, I'm here to apologize. We did this wrong. We did that wrong." And my first week in my new position here at this network, we're going to go over literally all the video and everyone that
Mm.
all the stories that that our network supported over the last 5-6 years that have been wrong,
Yeah.
and we're going to point it out. We're going to point out the people, and we're going to point out to you people that we didn't call out that we should have, like Brennan and what's his
Hmm.
name from the FBI and blah blah
Comey and
blah.
Clapper and all the group. Yeah.
Yeah,
All the guys. So, yeah.
the Three
Yeah.
Stooges, right?
Yeah. Linda wants to know if you're safe, Shane. Or Sandy. I'm
Well, I
sorry, not Linda.
am
Sandy.
safe. I mean, it's 14 below here. It is the middle of winter, but
Yeah.
a sunny, beautiful sunny day, not a cloud in the sky. But am I safe? It's a disparaging thought, Sandy, in my lifetime that I would see for political reasons martial law declared in Canada.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say about it. I mean, I'm personally hurt by it. Just I guess
Mhm.
I don't think there's anything wrong saying that.
No,
I,
no.
I didn't.
I would no, and I think there's probably a lot of Canadians feel the same way you do. I know if that happened in America, if they, um, if they had done the same thing to the
Yeah,
people
the Insurrection
in
Act. You have the
yeah,
same thing. It's called an Insurrection Act.
yeah. So I don't know, man, but yeah, we take those first 10 amendments pretty seriously here. The media doesn't seem to, and the government doesn't seem to, but I think the rank and file American out here says, geez, I still have freedoms. I have rights. I have, the ability to think for myself. I don't need the media to think for me. I don't need government to protect me, over protect me, I should say. So no, I should have the freedom to decide what speech I like, which speech I don't like, what's love speech, what's hate speech,
Mhm.
and you know, I I've never seen it like this before
Well,
either.
the
You know?
interesting thing is that the Emergency Act, in our kinds of government, in democracies, they're sort of important. And in ours, created in '88, used once by his father
Mhm.
because of the issue in Quebec.
Yeah,
The War Powers Act. Excuse me, not you. It was the War Powers Act, which was set up in 1914, was used for 2000 World War One and World War Two, and of course they used it to to lock up all the Japanese in BC and
hmm,
in the interior. And boy, that didn't work out well. It was terrible.
no,
But then he used it in '87 with the Quebec issue, and then he changed the act to the Emergency Powers
mhm,
Act in '88, and he made it more specific. So the thing is that there's specific cause, with things you'd expect, a terrorist
mhm,
attack, some horrific invasion, and so
mhm,
forth. There's a list of a half a dozen things of why it can be called. But the only one that looks like it could apply is where it says the premiers of any province are unable to, on their own, protect the citizens or be able to stop an insurrection or some type of protest. And that's what he's basically predicated is that in Ontario,
mhm.
where Ottawa is, they couldn't stop this.
Yeah,
And it's sad because, as we said last week, we watched your country burn for a year and nothing was done.
yeah,
And, this was just peaceful. I mean, these people were just, and they're all middle class people. You
hmm,
know,
Yeah, and they're not looting, they're not burning, they're not,
No.
they're not trashing people, they're not attacking police cars, and they're not protesting. They're protesting for, I think, all Canadians that these mandates, um, they keep changing from week to week, and nobody knows what to do. And you're trying to run your business and trying to make a living, and the government just decides, I think they flip a coin, Shane. I honestly do. I think they just sit in there and flip a coin and decide
Yes.
we're going to close this and we're going to open that. How
Well,
come
well,
how come half of America was closed and Walmart's open and Home Depot's open,
yes,
Lowe's is
exactly.
open? Why in the hell is that? Why is it safe to walk into Walmart, but it's not safe to walk into my own hardware store here on Main Street?
Well, a friend of mine made a good point, and that was is that when this started, the union, the head of the union for the truckers, said they were opposed to it.
Mhm.
As a union, you shouldn't do this, and so I think that gave Trudeau a lot of rope, and we'll see if the rope, blocked everyone from blocking Ottawa, or he hung himself.
Yeah.
We'll find out when he calls an election.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, I don't know. It's a sad situation for you guys up there, and I feel for you. It's got to be fearful. I mean, this is like 1939 Germany.
Yes.
You can't talk against the Fuhrer, or otherwise, you're going to find yourself disappeared somewhere, and that's got to be a scary situation to live in. And I know you're in Kamloops, Canada, not it's a big place, but it's not, it's not Ottawa and it's not Vancouver and
It's
it's
not
not,
Ontario,
yeah,
right?
or
Or
Ontario
Quebec,
or
yeah.
some of these other,
And
yeah.
if this has been for political reasons,
Mhm.
Trudeau's only going to go after people in Ontario and Quebec because those are the two provinces he has to keep,
Yeah.
to maintain his position politically in the country.
Yeah.
And
So,
that's why it'll be quite interesting if and when there's election. Now, there's two things that separate us, because in a parliamentary form of government, if you have a majority of the members of your parliament, then you are a designated democratic dictator for up to 4 years.
mm,
And you can pass any legislation or any laws you want because you have a majority.
yeah.
And you can decide when to call an election so no one knows. In your country, not so. We've seen that with your
Mhm.
situation. Everyone knows every 2 years there's an election. I mean,
Right.
every
Hmm.
November there's state, local elections, and every 2 years there's Congress, the entire House, and a
Hmm.
third of the Senate, and every 4 years the president. So everyone knows that's coming.
Yeah.
We don't have that here.
Hmm.
And secondly, you're not supposed to have any opportunity for a dictatorship, which is why you have the Senate and the House to prevent that.
Yeah.
And you're watching what they did with COVID, and all of a sudden you go, "Wow, the Republicans voted with the Democrats in the Senate to get
Yeah.
this all passed." So you sort of could have a dictatorship, right? If everybody went
Yeah.
along with it, right? Like
Well,
it's sort of
a
so.
lot of people thought Trump was a dictator. I mean, he was called that all the
Oh, the
time.
whole time. That
Oh
that
yeah,
was
the
just, yeah,
entire time he was in office.
yeah, of
So,
course.
but yeah, it's
Yeah, and his family made millions from the Russians, and
yeah,
the ex mayor's wife of Moscow gave one of his kids $20 million, and yeah, yeah, it's like this.
yeah.
The thing in Ukraine makes no sense.
Mhm.
45 million people in Ukraine. I was looking at the numbers last night of the size
Mhm.
of the military in Ukraine. I mean, it's like 5 times bigger than the Russian.
Yeah.
I mean, there's 210 million people in Russia, but they've only got 1 million people, and the Ukrainians have 4 and up to 12 million they can call on. So I mean,
Mhm.
this it's such an
Yeah, they're
amazing thing
the
to
what's
watch.
second or third biggest country in Europe, I think. So
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
right
Well,
up
yeah,
there.
you got
So,
Germany at 78 and
yeah.
so forth. France at 68 and
Mhm.
67 in England and 66 in
Yeah.
Italy. So I guess, yeah, Turkey's
Mhm.
pretty big.
Yeah. Well, they're also talking about, why are we even worrying about the Ukraine? When we come to free speech, they're a dictatorship as well. They're not a democracy that everybody keeps kind of holding them up as a democracy, but they really aren't. They're
Well,
as
I
bad
always
as
made yeah,
Russia.
I
They're as
always made
bad
that
and corrupt.
yeah, I always made that comparison with Venezuela because when they tried to get rid of the Madero government down there because of what's its country's
Mhm.
collapse, but then they picked this young looking great guy. You remember
Yeah,
4 years ago, and
yeah,
everybody said, "Oh no, you're the duly elected," and then they realized he was more socialist than the guy they have, and that just died. You remember
yeah. I know
we
that just
talked
went away.
about it. Yeah, you
Yeah,
and I talked about him, laughing about this guy's more
yeah,
of a socialist than Madero. And anyway, you've got the same problem in Ukraine. That
mhm,
the guy that's running Ukraine now used to
mhm.
be a very popular comedian on a television show, and he promised to come in and clean up the country. He didn't. He's as
Yeah,
corrupt as everyone else. It's a
mhm,
Western supported government, so we're all
mhm.
supporting a corrupt government of the Ukrainian
Yeah,
people. And you go through all these pro and cons on a list of piece of paper when you're looking at it, and you're going, this is not good. I mean,
mm,
it's a quagmire politically, but gosh, what this is like Ferdinand getting Prince Ferdinand getting shot and starting World War I, or
yeah.
you know
So,
I mean, you had Napoleon in the 19th century, right, or the early
yeah,
1800s. Then you
mhm,
had Hitler in the 20th century, in the 30s, and we could very well have another one of these guys here in the 20s
mhm.
in this
Yeah,
century. So
yeah. Well, it's very possible, and speech is one of the things that
all of it, they
all of it,
control it,
man.
right? Yeah,
That's where it comes from. That
that's right.
if if you can't voice your discontent with your government, the part I didn't have room for on the First Amendment was the right to uh, address your grievances with Congress. And that's what the truckers were trying to do.
That's right.
They're peacefully assembling and addressing the grievances with the Canadian government. The
Yeah,
Canadian
and
government says
and
no.
the reason we had to segue to all of that, talk about it briefly, was because without free speech in all those situations, Venezuela, Russia, Iran, the list goes on and on, China, there is no opposition, meaning
Mm.
they have control.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, if you
it's
oppose, you're gone. You're somewhere
mhm.
else. I mean, you're just you're not there anymore to speak.
That's right.
And
Yeah, that's
so
right.
yeah. Well, I don't know if we solved anything today, but at least we brought it to the forefront to talk about. And I particularly wanted the folks to know that you in Canada have no speech rights anymore.
Oh, no
Uh,
banking rights, no speech
yeah,
rights. You can lose your home, your car, your business. Yeah,
yeah,
it's martial
yeah,
law.
yeah.
It's
It's not good. So we
yeah.
hope all the folks up there will commensurate with you and feel your pain. And we don't understand how a government can do that to the people of Canada, but
Yeah, and
we
I want to continue this, but I'm limited to what I can say or support for the next 30 days because, like you say,
yeah.
I don't want to create a situation where they freeze my little old bank account.
Well, I was gonna,
I'm retired. I'm on a pension.
I was gonna say, you have to give up your chauffeur. I don't know, man. It's gonna be
Yeah,
tough.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah, of course. I'm worried about that. Yeah,
yeah, right.
yeah. I can't
So,
tip anyone.
yeah,
So
right. Well, that's true. That is a fear, and that they could just just be a wave of a wand. Your bank account's frozen. Your employment's gone,
well, I
and
can tell you one thing that they are covering because it's in the news. So I'm just reiterating it. They're basically a run on banks in Ontario and Quebec.
hmm,
People are going in and taking out their money.
demanding their
So
money because
yeah, so I'm expecting this week
mhm,
sometime the finance minister will put a stop to that.
yeah,
They're gonna restrict. I mean, this is another
mhm,
socialist thing,
mhm,
that happened in Venezuela as an example, which started creating inflation. Mind you,
mhm.
if people don't have money to spend, you're not going to have inflation, right? I mean, they're not
Yeah.
buying anything. They're not able to buy anything. How do you have inflation, right?
Well, that's true. Yeah. So I don't know. Well, All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up for us. We appreciate everybody watching. Hey, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. You'll always be notified when there's another podcast. We're here every Tuesday and Thursday at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. And also, we're brought to you by StreamYard. It's easy to use. We can use it, so you can too. There's a free link down below for it. And if you want to support the show monetarily, by all means, Patreon is a good way to do it. And there's a link in the description below on YouTube for that, and Facebook as well. So thanks for being here, and we will see you on the next podcast.